I turn my mic off.
Hmm.
So, hey guys, this is Jatin here on behalf of the blockchain community, VIT. Get ready for alumni soiree as we unravel the incredible journey of Vaibhav, who's not just dreaming but living the dream as a software engineer at Microsoft. About VIT Blockchain Community. It was launched in March to address the absence of a blockchain focused club and has been instrumental in organizing top notch events. With a dedicated team, BCC has collaborated with Student Tech Sangram, Lumen Labs, and hosted online sessions like Roadshow DeFi, Innoverse, and DesignX. Highlights include the success of Sheraton Proof of Community and three impactful Gravitas events. BCC stands out as a leading force in fostering blockchain knowledge and innovation on campus. Vaibhav Chopra, our speaker here, is of the 2023 batch. He is here to spill the beans on how to crack the code to success. From working with Samsung and Celo to having more than 10 projects under his belt, Vaibhav's got the inside scoop on what it takes to make it big in tech. But hey, it's not just about achievements. Wondering about the best way to enjoy life in VIT or having that never ending lead code streak? Bring it in because Vaibhav is here to share his knowledge, expertise, and maybe a few hilarious mishaps. About the session, we wanted to be interactive. First, we would be hearing it from the man himself about his journey, and after that, we would be opening the floor for questions from the panelists as well as the viewers. Over to you, Vaibhav.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Jatin. I'm pretty sure we'll get to know more about the mishaps than what went right today, as you pointed out. So thank you first of all for having me here. Very excited to always speak with students from VIT and students in general, and really excited to know about the work that you have done for VIT. Via these different Gravitas events and all which you have listed. Roadshows and Quanta. In the previous call which I had with some of you folks, you also pointed out what other projects and all that you are making, with the community. So yeah, really looking forward to this discussion, and I hope that somebody somewhere in VIT or in some college finds something useful from this conversation and it helps them in their career. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure having you. Uh, okay, we are just starting, but I guess we can move on to the questions as well now. Uh, we have Narendra here who will be moderating the questions. Those viewing in YouTube can ask the questions in the comment section, and we will be collecting it from there. Over to you, Narendra.
I guess you're muted, Narendra.
Hello. Yeah, I'm audible.
Yep.
Yeah. So the questions that I'm going to ask, they are from the core committee of our group, asked by many members, and some of them are from the others, the entire BCC as well, and some from other students of VIT. So the first question is that I gather that you work in Microsoft. The first question is that what specific courses or majors did you find the most beneficial in preparing for your current job as a software engineer?
And could you also go through your journey as a college student and how you ended up, like your entire 4 year? How did it go?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in this question, I would say. So I'll start by saying that computer science, or more accurately, like CSE core, was something that I was
Your
always very interested
journey
in.
as a
I
college
was
student and
very
how you ended
much into
up,
computers
like
ever since
your
I was a
entire
kid.
4 year? How did
So
it
when
go?
that JE phase and the okay, when you're in your
There's
last
a
year in
lot to
school,
unpack in
and
this
that
question,
phase
I would
came by,
say.
I was quite sure that this is something that I wanted to do. right? I was not willing to take any other branch. There are a lot of other awesome specializations like mechanical, civil, electrical, and whatnot, right? But I was hell bent on pursuing CSE, and that is why I chose CSE core in VIT Vellore. Uh, and that's where it all started for me. So there were quite a few courses along the way which helped me. I remember there was this introduction to programming, or CSE 1001. I don't exactly remember the course code, but that course in which they taught Python was a great help in the initial days. And later on there were a few courses here and there which I really liked. A lot of them I hated as well. I tried my best to not really pay attention, and I was doing other stuff, doing internships and engaging in clubs and chapters. But there was this web programming course which used to be there, where they taught Node.js in the end, and with MongoDB, but in the initial phases it used to be JavaScript and then PHP, right? Then there was this course which I attended, which had a huge impact on me. The CSE 1006, I think, blockchain technologies, yeah, I think it was called. And there, you got to learn about Bitcoin, and the faculty who was teaching it, was referring to course content which was there from Princeton University. So, you were practically on par, and you could ask stuff, you know, and which helped you learn. And taking inspiration from that, you often end up making your own projects, and that's what helped me land this fellowship called the Celo fellowship, which was blockchain based. Apart from that, obviously, there are staple courses like data structures and algorithms, and this one called database management systems that helped, right? I remember there was this subject called parallel and distributed computing. I was not that great at it, but I built a project using whatever I learned in that, and that I felt at that time was a great improvement to my knowledge. So these courses help here and there, but I feel that there is also a lot of off class learning which you do in communities, just like you people have, right? And also self learning, talking to seniors and talking to people even outside VIT, attending workshops, webinars, wherever you're getting information from, it's your job to gather that and absorb it like a sponge. And that helps shape you as a technologist and a developer.
No, I saw in your LinkedIn that you have done this course of blockchain foundation and use cases from Coursera. As someone,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was, by the way, part of additional learning. So I got like extra 9 or 10 points in my day, right? Back in the day, there used to be this thing called additional learning in VIT. So that's why I pursued that course on Coursera.
no. So even I did that course a couple of years ago. So is it like useful in job interviews or any other way in your
I'm
career?
sure, I'm sure it must have helped. So the thing is that over the years, practically I have been coding ever since I entered college, or I would say even before that. So even though I am technically a fresher according to the industry, it has been 5 years where I have been coding, right? So there are so many things that a person who's that long into the industry has tried, right? So this is just one small part of it. And that's how I would put it, right? You have to do a lot more, and obviously it helps you either it often puts you in a new direction, that okay, now I know this and these are the tools. You then specialize further, right? Most of these courses used to be back in the day based on blockchain technology like Bitcoin, but in all honesty, for developers, the platform at that time used to be something like Ethereum, or nowadays I guess it is Solana, right, where you can actually program things like blockchains. So it does definitely give you a direction, it definitely gets you extra marks, but there is a lot more to it, I would say.
Right. Okay. So the second question is, how did you navigate your internship opportunities within the college, and what impact did they have on your career?
Yep. So for me, I always wanted to do an internship ever since my first year. I remember, pursuing paid opportunities, unpaid opportunities, technical opportunities, non-technical opportunities. But I always wanted to, land that gig, right? Some of my friends suggested, okay, maybe let's try freelancing. But I always want to, at least have some money, make some money, and try to see what that feels like in college, because I'd never done that previously. So I feel that for me personally, internships were a lot based on mutual connections and recommendations. So for me personally, like applying to different internships was not the way. I had friends who had requirements, who then reached out to me, and I was always there. Does anybody need a React developer? I am learning React, and I can help you build this project. So I started out working in this startup called Soft Tech Applications, which was basically a consulting company of sorts, where they help build projects for other companies. Then I quickly moved on to this other insurance company called Prisha Insurance Brokers, and I was part of the founding tech team there, and that was a learning experience like no other at that time, because I was helping take these foundational decisions about how a lot of tech that they were working on was supposed to be built. Uh, so I feel that internships and working on real world technical challenges set me apart from the rest of the people. So I would really rank internship experiences quite high on my list, in terms of if I have to attribute my whatever success I have achieved in my college days to something, it will be internships, will be like in the top three very easily.
So, is there any way, like, I mean, number of internships that you should do in the duration of 4 years, or like one or two, or more than two, something like that?
And
I feel that,
that,
yeah, Jatin, you were saying something.
adding on to that, like how good would you rate is the coding atmosphere here in VIT now, because you have got more exposure, and since you also got your internships via recommendations. So
Okay.
how good is VIT for that?
So I'll first like go step by step. The first question I remember was that how many internships are good, right? So in my opinion, you should not go by the length of the internship or the count of the internship. Look at the experience accrued, right? So in Microsoft, often I hear a lot of people saying that it's not about how many years of experience. Let's say somebody says I have 5 years of experience in something, right? But that's different from saying I have 1 year of experience repeated 5 times, right? So are you actually doing something new in that new time that you're getting each year, right? So if you're doing the same things and not really learning or diversifying, I won't say like any amount of internships can help you. If you're looking to move from the same role in one company to another role, that won't really help. So you're doing the same things, obviously you'll get better at the same thing, but then you're kind of coupling your success with that technology really being around 5 years or 10 years down the line, right? You as an engineer, uh, especially if you are in a branch like CSE core, you should try understanding the core fundamentals and see how the different sort of technologies are being enabled by those fundamental components, right? Because it's all computers and networks under the hood, be that chat GPT today or Excel 20 years back. It's just computer disks, networks, that sort of stuff. And that has enabled all the innovation that we're seeing nowadays. So don't go in terms of count of internships, go in terms of how many new experiences I have accrued. So for me, I was working in SEO at one point, search engine optimization. Then I was working in backend development. Then I explored app dev for a while. I did a bit of ML and DL, uh, and blockchain was also a big part. So, and a lot of them were not even internship related. I was just working on my own projects, or going to hackathons. But that really set me apart from the competition in a lot of ways. So I would say don't go by the count, go by the quality. Uh, and the other question was that how I found the coding atmosphere in my time in VIT. I would say it was easily one of the best that I was, hearing from my friends. Okay, I asked, okay, how many clubs do you have? How many sessions do you get to have with your seniors, where they, walk you through what's hot in tech, and maybe let's say, help you build your resume and your projects. In my time, it was very good, I would say. But at those, in that time, the input of the clubs and chapters was also quite limited. So you could have more one-on-one attention. I'm not sure how it's happening right now, but I'm sure something good must be coming off of it still. But this coding atmosphere enabled people to reach out, right? There was no ragging culture as such in VIT. you know there were, the seniors were very friendly. You could reach out with any doubt. There were WhatsApp groups, there were Slack communities, there were Discord groups. Everywhere that you could reach out for information, that channel was open in VIT. And I'm sure it's open still, if you really know where to go to, right? If you know who to reach out to, you can still make your way and learn stuff. And also, like, year on year, the online resources and stuff is improving. So even if you're, let's say, not from a relatively big college, you can, join, let's say, Telegram communities, or buy, let's say, some boot camp courses which you can use to upskill and catch up. But eventually you always find a circle that is full of talented people who can push you to grow yourself. So the atmosphere does not really just exist. You have to contribute towards it and make sure that it's a healthy atmosphere, and it's sustained over the years, right? So maybe like when you were in your first or second year, there was somebody who helped you learn something, but now they are out of college because BTech is really a 3 year 4 year program. So now you must be paying it back to somebody else who never really met the original person. So that's how a atmosphere and a community grows. That's why a lot of clubs and chapters call themselves communities, right? Because people keep coming and leaving, but the message and the crux of the community has to live on.
Right. All right, I'll move on to the next question then. Can you share some insights on networking opportunities and how they contributed to your professional growth?
So I was very lucky, I would say. In terms of networking, I remember, and this is true, I am friends with people. So I joined VIT in 2019, right? And I'm friends with people from VIT who passed out in 2018 and 2017. So there was no time where there was an overlap between us two people being on the campus, right? These people are slightly older than me too because of this gap. So, and this happened because through mutuals. So I had somebody who was 1 year senior to me, and let's say I asked them a doubt, right? Okay, how does this work? I'm not able to work this out. So they even did not know the answer, let's say, and they used to propagate it upwards and upwards and upwards. So eventually I got to be part of a circle way more experienced than me, who knew stuff way more than I did. And that's how I became friends with them. So networking, that aspect of it, I could really explore. In fact, being part of these communities helped me land opportunities in the initial days when I had no resume, but I said, okay, I'm learning from this community. I have this set of projects that I've built being part of this community, and I got scouted from there because there were people who were part of that community but had left the college because their degree was over, but now they were working in startups, right, or companies where they had a need which needed to be filled. So they took a bet on me ki, this is a community which we trust. There are members in it which know something. Because of the community, we can trust that they will actually know what they are claiming to know. And that helped me land a lot of opportunities. And landing those initial opportunities is way harder than those incremental gains which you can do later, right? So landing that first internship is always more difficult than landing the next, right? Because now you have built up experience and you also get better at stuff over time, right? So networking is important. I feel networking is important even to this date because my goal always is to grow my circle, right, and find out new tangents which I can take to grow in my career. So in my time in college, I used to think, okay, I need to be one of the best in my friend circle in tech. Then that goal changed to I want to be the best in one of the best in my batch. Then it changed to I want to be one of the best in the whole of VIT, right? And you obviously need to work hard, but I feel networking also takes you halfway there, right? And you need to know more people to understand what capability the world has to offer, right? So Even now you join something like Microsoft, there are people who are awesome, right? The creator of Python works here, right? So but you would never know if you don't go out and find out, okay, who all is there, in my neighborhood, right? You need to check in on your neighbors and find out, okay, what do you do, who you are, how can I help you and how can you help me, right? So trying to grow your circle continuously also tells you, okay, this is the next big thing that might be there for me, and help you move on to the next big opportunity, right? Because you can always get stagnated, no matter how high of a pedestal you reach in your life. You can always be stagnated and feel not doing your best, right? So it's better to keep moving and figure out your next flag post, and you can only do that by networking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure even clubs would have played a big part in your networking. Uh, Tell us about your club life here in VIT.
So definitely, like, networking helps. I remember I was on relatively good terms with a lot of these clubs and chapters members, because, like, there was this culture of hackathons which was quite heavy in my time, because COVID has just arrived, and there is this new culture of online hackathons, so you don't need to be available in person anymore to attend these hackathons. So everybody was doing this from their home. So it allowed these relatively well known people in your batch to emerge, because the same sort of people would keep winning hackathons, for example, right? So hackathons, let's say you have 4 or 5 hackathons in 2 months in VIT, half of those positions would be won by the same team across hackathons. So I it helped me become friends with some of these people, who and these sort of people also became leaders of those clubs and chapters eventually, and I got to be a part of the board of 2 clubs and chapters myself. So, and these people continue to do well because of their experience and their projects and their hackathon wins and all these sort of things. So that sort of networking also helped, because I am still in touch with some of these people today, and they are in good companies. They are or either like doing startups of their own, uh, and if I need something, I can always reach out.
That's good to know. That's good advice. So listen, one more thing that we need to know is that obviously I've done a lot of extracurricular activities which have played a pivotal role to land a job in Microsoft. And obviously I've done academics. I've seen your CGPA was 9.43 on your LinkedIn profile. How did you balance this, and what advice would you give in that respect?
By not going to class. So there was a reason I had that CGPA, because it enabled me to not go to classes which I did not want to go to. And I feel like this is one of the biggest, the best things that VIT does, is that if you keep up a certain amount of CGPA, you can not go to classes if you want. So it's true that you have a limited amount of time throughout your day, throughout your week. So you should invest in the place where you feel you're getting the most return on investment. So for me, that used to be making projects of my own a lot of times, or doing internships, or helping other people in the communities or clubs and chapters that I was in, build their projects and their resumes. Not saying that classes were entirely useless, but because of this, I would say, feature of our course, I could choose to only attend what I wanted to attend, and for the rest I could watch recordings and ask my peers, okay, what happened in the class, and or maybe just go through the decks which were shared right before exam, maybe, right? And so that's how I kept up extracurricular activities. I was majorly involved in tech related extracurricular activities. I'm not some like sportsman, or I am not a good dancer. I know those sort of activities also exist in VIT. But this is the kind of extracurricular stuff that I engaged in, and it helped me learn a lot. And that often came at the cost of, let's say, not going to classes. But I at that time, and I still do feel that that was a worthy investment of my time.
Well, that's one excuse for not going to classes, an alumni advice.
Yeah.
All right. Now, were there any particular professors or mentors who were, like significantly influenced you, mentored you, and how did you connect with them?
Uh, so there were a few faculties, I would say. Uh, so my DSA teacher, uh, Mr. Suraj, he was an excellent teacher. I am not sure if he's in VIT anymore, but that person really set a standard for what it means to be really knowledgeable in a domain like DSA. So no, at that time he was teaching me in my second semester, so that's like first year, so early 2020. So in that time I felt like, okay, I should really, if I want to learn DSA well, I should follow this person. He was one person who really stood out. Then proctors are often like a good source of inspiration for you. So I had Mrs. Reenu, who was my proctor. So she was always a constant source of inspiration, and always available to reach out in case some student was in need. So these sort of people always made sure that I felt at home in VIT. Others, like other, I would say, like role models would be my seniors. So via the different sort of communities that I was a part of, I met a lot of people like, I'm sure I'll miss a few people, but there were people like Navdeep, who's working in Microsoft, by the way, 1 year senior to me. Then there was this guy called Sangeet, one example of people who were part of VIT before me, before I even joined, but I'm still in touch with. Then I, via mutuals again, I met this person called Amol, who helped imbibe this spirit of lead coding in me, where I have this long streak. It's probably because of him. And there were juniors also, which became great friends and inspired me. So a lot of people contributed. There was this person called Tanmay, who helped me land one of my first big opportunities. In pressure policy. Uh, so a lot of people helped, I would say.
So a question from my side will be like students who are in final year or like pre-final year are like very confused like whether to pursue like in industry or like go for masters and stuff. So what's your take on that? And also explain them like if really like going for masters is like worth or not.
Sure. First of all, I'm a very biased person in this regard, so my opinion is or like way towards a certain direction already. But I'll try to do my best to explain my reasoning of this question's answer. So first of all, like if you're considering going for masters, you need to decide what sort of field do you want to be, right? Because when I'm in Microsoft, I see a lot of people who have done their MS, MTechs, and somebody who has also done MBA, right? Generally, the product managers are people from IIMs or somebody who have done MBA from some well-established college. So first of all, like you need to decide that, do I see myself being in tech 10 years from now? Like, do I want to keep being a developer or like a senior and become a senior software engineer of sorts or a technical manager, or do I want to pivot towards management, right? Or maybe let's say become a PM or something of that sort. So first of all, that clarity should be there in your mind. I personally am not somebody who's inclined to go into something like an MBA, right? Because I like I said, I have a huge amount of love for computer science, and it's something that I want to do as for as long as I can. Uh, so, and coming to like things like MSCs and like MTechs, then you really need to take a call. Like you need to think of it in terms of a financial ROI. So a lot of students don't think of it in this regard, but now I feel like a lot of students at your age are smart enough to also look at the financial implications of education, right? So there is a huge amount of fees which is there for BTech programs and MTech programs, right? And if you're, let's say, going abroad, that's an even bigger financial load. And a lot of people end up taking loans for that. Now, there's not like it's not wrong to take a loan, but you need to do the math that if I, let's say, take that amount of money and, put that time, let's say a BTech, sorry, an MTech program, let's say lasts for 2 years or whatever, however long, what is the amount of money I would make if I'm, let's say, skilled enough and have a job already in the industry. So let's say I'm in Microsoft, right? Not going into the exact numbers, but I have done the math and I feel that at least in the initial few years, me being in the industry and working hard and let's say maybe work towards growing in my roles, that has a bigger return financially than just going for further education for which I'll have a cost implication and I won't be able to work full time for the next 2 years anywhere, right? So it's really first of all a personal choice of what you want to do eventually with your life, and second of all you need to look at the ROI and see if it works out for you. For me personally, that does not work out in my opinion, and I have no inclination towards doing that anytime soon. But if you feel that maybe you are not prepared to join the industry in a way which you wanted to, right? So then maybe you buy an extra few years and upskill further and then join it, or maybe you have goals of let's say going abroad anyways, in which case a master's or something abroad will help. So it really is a person dependent choice.
Yeah, so just a follow up, not really a follow up, but what I analyze is ki, like you have to be very calculative, like before going or pursuing for masters. And also other thing is, if you're not, as you mentioned, that if you're not ready for the industry, and if you're a person who is very like geek or like very ready for the technology and like stepping in industry, then you should be like moving towards industry, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Also,
Like questions from your side, Jatin and Narendra?
yeah, more light-hearted question. Like, what stack do you use at work right now, and what stack do you think people should be doing moving forward? Like, what stack should the future people be doing so that they're industry ready?
First of all, I'm not sure if I can disclose it, but I'll try to give you a more diplomatic answer to that. So when you come into companies like Microsoft or other big companies, you often work on stuff that is so specific to these companies that you will not come into these challenges in any other company, right? Because these are challenges of scale and of financial volumes which are beyond most other companies, right? So there the stack and all doesn't really hold because the traditional frameworks are not really needed or useful a lot of times, right? So but yeah, to just to give you a hint, it's just the regular stuff which you learn in college, like the fundamental languages if you're interested in. And people still use stuff like React and stuff, to build portals and whatever. Uh, but it's a lot of times, see, because I work in Azure, right? There are a lot of things which are internal. So often they have internal frameworks and internal tools which you never get to see those technologies again, and so we often build on those sort of things which never get to see the light of the day in the consumer market. And so we often build on those sort of things which
Oh, wow.
you learn while at Microsoft, but if you go out you never get to see those technologies again. And if you are like, you ask me like what's the sort of stack that a newbie should pick up. Hello, Ravindra, can you hear me?
It was lagging. I'm fine. It's good now.
Okay. So I was talking about like recommendations for new people who are looking to enter into the industry and what sort of technologies they should pick up. I feel that you should pick up technologies which allow you to build as much different, or I would say diverse stuff that you can. So this could include things like TypeScript and JavaScript, because that allows you to build everything ranging from web apps to backends to blockchains to AI stuff, and then also mobile apps, right? So it gives you a lot of versatility if you learn that well, right? And you never know going to be the hot thing 4 years from now. So having a handle on these fundamental things will help. Uh, then you should also like pick a few domains which you foresee being hot in the future. For example, nowadays LLMs and AI is pretty hot. And what do you do with the conversational style of AI? So you should probably follow those things. I'm hearing again and again that a lot of students are, now inculcating LLM based projects in their resumes, which did not used to be the case like 1 year back when I was in placements, right? There was no such thing as ChatGPT or LLMs, and there were no projects which were, based on that. So don't just skim the surface, try to learn about more stuff. So I'm like, if you have to build a tool, like a project around OpenAI, don't just, make a wrapper around the API. Maybe use something like LangChain or semantic kernel or some other tool and try to build a really fleshed out product. And I think that's going to add value to your skill set. But yeah, also know the fundamentals, like pick a tool which, is very versatile like JS or Python, and then learn the fundamentals of CS, like how Linux works, how operating systems work, how kernels function, how networking works, and then pick a new thing also like ChatGPT or some other hot trend that is there like WebAssembly.
Quite understanding, and also have like two questions, like what people do. I won't include people, like what I generally did like in second year, like I was curious to switch on things like, so the thing is you won't learn TypeScript if you won't learn JavaScript, right? So you have to be like very strong with the basics, like don't jump here and there. So what I did was like first I was surfing, okay, like I saw that like React video 2 hours, and then I switched to blockchain, and then like Python, AI, and stuff. So I don't think so people should do that. And also how to like maintain LinkedIn profile. Like there are like several live sessions going from big companies, Cisco, McKinsey, and stuff. So like some people, what they do, that they join and they comment and then they just analyze it and post about it. So does that make sense, or like can you like suggest something?
So your first question was like how not to get distracted, when you are having like a information overload of
Yeah,
sorts.
like some people have very distractive mind, like they will do something for 2 days, then they will switch to some other thing, then they will buy some course, then they will just like refer documentation, and like then they're just confused at the end of the day.
That is true. Like even right now, there's advent of code which is going on, and I'm
Yeah.
trying it out in new languages. Like I'm picking up Rust for it. So is that a good thing? Or, like,
What is advent of code? I'm not aware.
it is like a coding competition which happens between this period from 1st December to 25th December, and they're like random CP questions, competitive programming questions, which are just posted online. And since everyone is doing it together, it becomes fun. Like people discuss about questions and stuff like that. So it's like a global way of learning something new. So what's your view on it? Like,
So like about how not to. So I think that essentially a lot of this boils down to the question which Anjali asked, like how do you not get distracted? Because these are like all seasonal things, right? You are not here to be a one-hit wonder. You are here to be like an industry expert who will probably stick around for the next 20 years, right? So how not to get distracted is, in my opinion, try to use something which is called Occam's razor. So it's basically a mental frame where you say that I will only do the minimum thing which is needed to achieve a goal. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, I will first of all figure out. Let's say I want to land this internship in web development, right? What is the minimal thing which is needed? I'll first become an expert of that, and then see what else is required, right? Because it's not like you're going to stop learning once you join that gig, right, or join that company. There will be a lot more learning. I remember almost none of my knowledge which I had in the past helped when I joined in Microsoft. I had to learn a lot of new things. Not saying that the past was useless, but it's a different kind of problem, right? So don't get too much stuck upon learning everything in a particular domain. Try to figure out what is the least amount of knowledge which is required in that domain to become dangerous enough to be useful, right? And for every domain that will be something different, and to every person that might be something different. But I would say at least give something 3 to 4 weeks before changing. First of all, like don't try to hop domain every 2 days or 3 days. give it some time to grow on you, and have give it the chance to plant a seed, and maybe you figure out eventually how that fits into your goal. And you talked about Rust, right, and advent of code. It's good, like if you're doing it, but it's still a niche thing. And I've seen some cases where people somehow based on these niche competencies, they land into opportunities which the average person will not land into, right? I recently met this person who's from Kerala at one of the conferences, and he was working in a Ruby on Rails consulting company. And I'm like, you are the first person I have met who has claimed to know Ruby and is working in Ruby on Rails. But that person was interested and is now working full time remotely in a company I had never heard of, but apparently is a huge company. So sometimes you do land into those niche
Yeah, like
opportunities because of that.
even I also heard stories from my friend. Like there was a friend who was like just sitting on island and like working remotely, and like that company was like so anonymous, but he was like just getting 100K dollars and stuff. Like so people are so amazing out there. Like they just do it, and like you won't know also at the same time. Yep.
Yep, can happen, but again, like you need to prioritize and really be honest to yourself that
Yeah.
am I of that caliber to crack this sort of opportunity, instead of maybe let's say unwantedly lying to yourself and not having anything to show for it at the end of the day. So you need to be honest with yourself as well that am I really investing in being that good, or it's just like a fad which I'm pursuing for 20 days. So those people who have that, they have obviously worked very hard to. Nobody's just paying you 100K dollars for sitting on an island, right? You're probably working extra long hours on that island. I mean, you sure have a lot of coconut water, but you're also working very hard. So you need to make sure that you are actually of that capability before claiming that you are.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming to this great session. It was really amazing. I just have one final question, and then we can take the questions from the comment section and conclude the meet. So,
Sure.
up to now, everyone has asked you what to do in life, what to do in college, what to do when. I just have one final question. What to not do in college? What, according to you, what are some things that you should never do in college? And we can proceed to the comment questions.
um I mean, I have an answer, but I'm not sure if I can say it on the public forum. Right, right. So like, as long as like, so college, I would say, is the chance that every person has to embrace who they really are, right? Obviously, like when you are new, this is also like a college is the place where you get to do a lot of adulting, I would say, right? So you are somebody who has been transitioned from being a very sheltered sort of a person to now being relatively independent, where you can make some of your own choices. So while in the initial days you might still get stuck in that rat race of sorts, where this person is doing that, this if I don't do this, I will not have a group of friends who accept me. But at the end of the day, when you're in your pre-final year or final year, I think you get to make a call that this is the sort of person I am, and this is the sort of person I really want to be. So I feel that you're asking, like, what is the thing I should not do in college. It's not about what you should not do in college, it's about making the decisions that what is something that I do not want to do for the rest of my life, and something that I will be okay doing for the rest of my life. So make sure that you are accumulating the kind of experiences in that 4 years which helps you take that call for the next 5 to 10 years in college. There's nothing specific which I can say, okay, don't do this. Maybe it didn't work out for me, but it would work out for you, so, and then the answer would not be really useful.
I
That's
have
true.
one question actually.
Yeah.
During your Microsoft interview, or for that matter, any other company's interview you gave, what sort of
Hmm.
questions do they ask? Are they like technical, non-technical? What
Again,
exactly?
can be anything. So there are companies, so I also interviewed for a lot of banks like Fidelity and JPMC, and in some of those, they were very focused on my resume and how my soft skills, how I am as a person, what is my mental frame, while trying to solve or give answer to a question. But there are obviously companies which are overtly technical like Microsoft, where they will question you about everything, you know from DSA to high level design to low level design to my projects in blockchain and Kubernetes. So it can go either way, and you need to be prepared for everything.
Yeah, so basically what happened like 2 months ago, I failed my Microsoft interview. So yeah, basically there was like they were focused on DSA mainly. If you don't know DSA, you won't get like you'll be disqualified in the first round only.
Yeah, so like
Like you
DSA
have
often becomes like a filter for like
Yeah, they just
reducing
like
the.
asked my resume for like 5-ish minutes just to like have a pura convo, and then they switched off. Like they called me in some like lead code, not lead code. There was some link codify karke, and like there then
Okay.
they gave some question and like you have to code it like in front of them. Also at the same time, they check like what you're thinking. You have to be interactive. You don't have to be like silent and do like coding. You have to explain them what you're thinking now, like how this code of line like matches your mental frame at that same time as well. So yeah.
Yep, it can go either way, right? So I have also been part of interviews where I was not asked to code anything. It was all experience based, opinion based, and resume based. But that's still, I would say, the rarity and not the norm. Most of the companies will ask you technical stuff and maybe even expect some code to be done live.
Okay, I think we can't hear Anjali.
No, no, go
Anjali,
ahead.
what do you say?
I
No, go
can
ahead.
hear her.
Okay. So can we move on to the comment questions if
Sure.
everyone's okay with it? Yeah. Okay, the first one is, what projects did you do when you're in college? So, in a brief, can you just tell, even if you're going for placements or if you're going for masters or if you're going to continue with research, what kind of project should a student pick up, and which one, and how many should we do according to you?
I mean, the more the merrier. I have always tried to pick up projects which challenge me. So, like, they should always be slightly out of my reach in terms of capability, right? There should be at least some element which I have not explored in the past. I remember building my operating system subject project, and there was nothing much for me to do in that. It was a simple encryption, decryption sort of a project, but I was like, okay, why not, let's avoid building a console app or let's say a web app for it. I built an Electron app for it, which I did not know Electron back in the day, but building that project in Electron helped me understand the fundamentals of it. Similarly, like, I always try to add one or two components which I have not used in the past, which expands my knowledge base and also challenges me. For my Microsoft, when I was building my resume for my final placements, I had a pre-existing project which was basically Solidity and Node.js based project, and I deployed that whole thing on Kubernetes. This was the Kubernetes bit was new to me. That was the bit I did not know very well. So that's how I recommend building. Take a small component, master it, build it, then maybe let's say build a project that slightly overlaps with it, but keep adding new projects. So in that way, like, you will never have to also like start from scratch. Now that cannot be done every time because you might often want to switch subjects and stuff. But always keep that door open if you can. And like, I do projects even to this day. I recently launched an open source project called Backroad, which is a low code tool for building Node.js apps. If anybody is interested in something like Streamlit, if you've heard of in Python, or basically you want to build a web app in very less lines of code, you can do that using Backroad, which is a project I launched in October. So this sort of learning never ends. Uh, Even when you are employed or doing a job, you can always do projects of your own and keep learning on the side.
Okay, so one final question. Um, how do you stay motivated with so much pressure around academics? I think this is something which you already answered, but you can just tell once again, how do you deal with the pressure? And even when once, it comes to the end of the college, you see your friends getting placed, and, it kind of puts you out like, okay, we should also start doing something and we should put ourselves out there. So how do you constantly feel motivated about it and, not degrade yourself in any sense?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, the best way to counter these sort of thoughts is to learn how to be your biggest motivator, right? Obviously, you will have people around you, like your parents or your friends, who might be, pushing you to not be so hard on yourself and, uh, take a chill pill, as they would say, right? But eventually, what I feel is the solution to this is that, see, these sort of thoughts are not going to end with college, right? People think that, after JE, I will stop having these, competitive thoughts where, I'm looking down on myself. But then you enter college and look, the thoughts are still there. And let me tell you, it doesn't get any better once you, join a company or, join the real world. uh, these are part of the human nature and they will never end. So you need to not, and you cannot, get rid of them. You need to get used to coexisting with them. You don't start acting without them, you start acting despite them. uh, so you need to always, you need to develop the ability to look back at your past and tell yourself that, I am that person who went through all of this and reach here, right? So if I have been able to do this, I think I can handle this as well. You need to always remember your roots, because in a lot of ways life gets easier once you have money and, a lot of things going for you once you are, in my age. But often when you feel, like when you're faced with difficulties, you need to tell yourself, okay, this is where I came from, and I was doing all right back then, so I can, still do well in this new set of challenges. So I feel that's, you know what motivates me and keeps me going, because oftentimes you will have no motivation, right? So if you are in college, you still have maybe, let's say, a motivation to do lead code, right? But look at what I am doing on lead code, right? There is no need really for me to keep going, but it's just that, first of all, you develop perseverance to do it. But now eventually you might even fall in love with what you were doing, right? Now I have a real interest in, doing that sort of stuff, and that's what is keeping me going. So it's a mix of, like, first of all, being, strong here, being your biggest motivator, and eventually maybe you can even start developing a liking for that thing, and then that's
For the
not that
context, yeah,
not so hard
he
anymore.
has been doing it for what has a streak of 600-day plus, if I'm right.
Yeah, 670 plus, I think. I'm not sure
70
myself.
days. Yeah.
So now at this point I'm scared. Like if I lose it, I cannot make it back. So because that's like 2 years I have to do it again. So at this point I'm also like, it's so much part, like I can forget, let's say, having a meal, but it's like now such a part of my muscle memory that I'm like, okay, I forgot that,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And I have friends who have this sort of streaks who, if they don't do the POTD, sometimes they wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, because the problem changes at 5:30. Their brain, is just, now primed in such a way that they cannot avoid it, and I think I am on a similar trajectory.
yeah,
All right. Thank you for that, Vaibhav. I think we have covered all the questions. You have pretty much answered everyone's questions we had, and I'll hand over to Jatin right now for him to close this event. Thank you.
yeah,
Sure.
that was super fun. Yeah, it was a and like huge shout out like for dropping those heavy insights, which we can only get from someone who's more experienced in years. And also, thanks to everyone for joining in the stream. The questions were really good. We got to like pick up questions from these were questions that we had already collected. We also got some from the comments. It was wonderful. Yeah. Also, any closing remarks?
Nothing of that sort. I mean, all of you have been, really kind to host me and, taken interest in what I have been able to do, so far. I really do hope that somebody learns from all of this. And if you really want to keep following my thoughts and what I have to say, you can like tune in on my LinkedIn. I have pseudo makes. I'm called like I have this username pseudo makes on almost all major handles like Twitter, LinkedIn, and whatnot. So I keep sharing these sort of insights and whatever I'm learning at my job and beyond that also by being part of all these conferences. So you can connect with me. I'm always open to chatting with juniors who want some sort of advice. So I'm always open for such a discussion. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Like it was a nice, informative session as well, and like it was fun also. Yes, Seema, you were saying something.
No, I was just thanking him for being here. It was really graceful, and we want to express our gratitude from the bottom of our hearts for coming up for our club and doing this and taking out time for us. And yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. Keep up the good work. I really hope that there more students keep joining your community and you keep growing and you know start shaping the lives of so many students. Who get to learn, who get to grow, being a part of your community. Right.
Yep.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
That's my last words. Yeah, I guess we should keep taking inspiration, keep coding, keep dreaming, and maybe who knows, we'll be in these steps of Weber Bhaiya someday.
There
Get,
are there are bigger avenues, my friend. Don't just like look higher.
yeah, Bhaiya.
Uh,
It
yeah.
was truly a pleasure having you here, and yeah, this would be me, Jatin, signing off the event. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Cool then. Bye bye.
Yeah.